Hello.
Hi, how
Miss
are
Blake,
you?
how are you?
Just
How
call
are
me
you?
Margaret. I'm
Please
well.
call
How are
me
you?
Mr. Z. That's what the kids always call me.
Okay, great.
Great. I have here Mr. Humphrey and Mr.
Oh,
Kenya. They're going
nice
to
to
be
meet
sitting
you.
in on our interview
Nice to meet
today.
you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, let's have a seat. I got your resume, looked it over, very impressed with your credentials. Would you like a glass of water?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you very
Great.
much.
Ever got here fine? No problems?
Not a problem.
Good.
Directions were great.
Good. Okay. We just want to start off, and we got a chance to look over your resume, so we have a pretty good idea about your educational background, some of your teaching experience. Why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're applying for a position here at St. Paul Elementary School?
Well, I've been teaching the past few years at Bellevue Elementary. I've been teaching first and second grade, which I love. Took a couple of years off when I had my first child, then went back to teaching. I love my job right now, but I do have family in the area, and I would just like for my kids to be a little bit closer to their grandparents, so that's what I'm looking to move here for.
Very good. Okay. We also would like to know a little bit about, one of the things that we find to be very important here is positive behavioral and intervention supports, sometimes PBIS. What would you like to tell us about your knowledge of that program and how perhaps you've implemented it in your classroom?
Well, actually, I was on the PBIS committee at Apple Slice Elementary School, and there we go by the 3 R's, be respectful, be responsible, and be ready to learn. And that's something that we reinforce on a day-to-day basis on the PA in the morning. We have signage in the hallway, so it's something that every teacher and every student talks about, knows, and is very aware of. And we try to implement that in the school every single day.
How does that impact your classroom management skills? How would you describe your classroom management skills?
Well, I like to set up very clear rules right from the very beginning. The very first day of school, we talk about the rules of the classroom together so that the students believe that they're fair. I just try to stay on task with those rules and follow up with any behavioral issues that I have right away. I stay in very close contact with my students' parents just so they're aware of everything that's happening in school. And that way, if we have any problems, we can take care of them before they become bigger issues.
Okay, very good. The next question is related to math. What strategies would you teach the student to use that does not understand regrouping in math?
Well, one tactic I use is manipulatives. I think that sometimes, for instance, using plastic money, when the kids can visualize the concept, I think that helps them understand the basics rather than just explaining in words. Having them use something that's tangible makes it a little bit easier for them using more of their senses to understand a concept.
Okay. Now let's say, have you ever worked with a paraprofessional before?
I have actually, yes.
Perhaps you could comment on having a relationship where you have a couple strong personalities that have perhaps some type of a disagreement about an approach, perhaps some type of undermining of your efforts in some way. What progressive steps would you take to deal with this staff?
Well, I'm a very open and honest person, and it's something that I would have to take care of right away before it escalated. And I would just have a one-on-one conversation with that person and just express to them that, their ideas are as valuable as mine, and we need to work collaboratively for the good of our students, because it is in the best interest of our students that we put our minds together and work as a team rather than fight against each other.
Okay. Problem-solving skills are a very important skill for students as early as second grade. What type of a lesson could you describe for us that would teach or promote problem-solving strategies?
One lesson I actually used last year was developing a mental image. what I did was I gave the students all of the art materials and resources that they would need. And I read a descriptive passage from a book, and we talked about the senses. And what I had them do was actually create a drawing based on what words I spoke from that passage that would illustrate the senses that they experienced when they listened to me read that book with their eyes closed. Okay, they could draw a picture, and we would discuss it later about what senses were activated. What did their image smell like, or what did their image feel like if you could touch it?
Okay, so that was great idea, like your problem-solving strategy that you came up with. What about strategies for improving student achievement?
I think that consistent feedback is very important. Differentiated instruction is a tactic I use very often because I have students of all different abilities. And anticipating misconceptions that my students may have, and then being able to reteach those through alternative methods.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned differentiating instruction because that's our next question. How would you differentiate your lesson plans for students in your class?
I use formative assessments to determine learning. Then I would group the students based on ability. Sometimes that would give me a little bit more time to work with those that need to be brought up to speed. And other times, depending on the lesson, I like to break them up with more advanced learners that can help teach the others in their group. So it really depends on the lesson.
Okay. Well, that's very good. Do you have any questions for us at this point?
You know, I'm very interested in starting an after-school program, possibly a craft club. Is there money in the budget or any funds available for materials for something like that?
Well, I can tell you right now that at this point we're not exactly sure what's happening with our budget, but we love to have after-school programs in our building. It's what keeps the kids, really engaged in our school, and any opportunity to have that and getting parents involved. That's really what we like to look for here at St. Paul Street Elementary. Um, any other questions?
No, that's it.
Well, we'd like to thank you for coming.
Well, thank you very much.
We'll see you and let you know what we have in mind in the next couple days.
Okay, great.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
in.